This is 9.4a, and the name of it is Factoring Trinomials in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So what does that mean, ax squared plus bx plus c? It means that now we have a number, which is called a coefficient, in front of the x squared term. In everything we've done previously, it was just x squared plus bx plus c, so it could have been something like x squared plus 5x plus 20, and asking you to factor that trinomial. The coefficient in front of the x squared term was 1 previously. Now, it's no longer 1, we have a number there, and that changes the type of factoring that we're doing. So this is the fourth type of factoring, and I want you to refer to it as factoring the trinomial. It's again for a trinomial because there are 3 terms. There will be 3 terms, but there will be a coefficient in front of that first term, like 6x. So that is the first example that we're going to do. It starts with 6x squared plus 17x plus 5, and it says to factor. And I have to think to myself, there are 3 terms, I'm looking for a GCF. So every time you start to factor, look for a GCF first. This one doesn't have one. Then I see 3 terms, so I'm thinking about factoring a trinomial. And it is a trinomial, but it has a number in front of that x squared term, so I am factoring it with the fourth type of factoring, and here's how it works. With the fourth type of factoring, the first thing that you're going to do is take the first number and the last number, and you have to make sure it's in the right order. X squared plus 17x plus 5. The x squared term has to come first, the just plain x term second, and the 5 last. And you're going to take those 2 numbers and multiply them together. So when you do, that now will be your product. So your product is 30. No longer product just being 5. The product is 30. These are being multiplied. And your sum is still the middle number. Your sum is still the one that's in the middle. And again, you try to find 2 numbers that multiply to 30 and add to 17. And they're going to be 15 times 2, because 15 plus 2 adds to 17. But now, where we originally had 3 terms, we're now going to change this and rewrite it so there are going to be 4 terms. And the way we're going to rewrite this whole thing is we're going to take this middle term, instead of writing 17x, we're going to write 15x plus 2x, because 15x plus 2x does equal 17x. So we rewrite the whole thing. 6x squared plus 15x plus 2x plus 5. So where there were 3 terms, there are now 4. The reason there are 4 is because we've changed 17x to 15x plus 2x. How did we get 15 and 2? By doing the product and sum, the product always being the first one multiplied by the last one, sum being the same as it was before, the one in the middle. Now that we have 4 terms, we're going to do grouping. So I will group the first 2, and I'll group the second 2. When I group the first 2, I'm going to find the GCF, and the GCF of the first 2 is 3x times 2x plus 5. The GCF of the second binomial is just 1 times 2x plus 5. Now I'll do what we normally do with grouping. We're going to take the outside and write 3x plus 1. Take the inside, 2x plus 5. This is my answer. I have factored the trinomial. And just to show you, we're going to check this one. So to do the check, we're going to FOIL. FOIL to check. 3x times 2x, 6x squared. 3x times 5, 15x. 1 times 2x, 2x. 1 times 5, 5. Combine the middle terms, 6x squared plus 17x plus 5. So that's what I started with, so I did it right. But this one is the answer that has the two binomials as the answer. Next example, we're going to do the exact same thing over again. 7x squared plus 22x plus 3. So once again, it says to factor, and we look at it and we look for a GCF. There will be a GCF coming up, so just be aware of that. This one does not have a GCF, 7, 22, and 3, no GCF. So we see it's a trinomial, and there's a trinomial number in front of the x squared term, so that tells me I have to multiply the first one times the last one to get my product. The product is 21, and the sum is 22. So the two numbers are 21 and 1. 21 times 1 gives 21, 21 plus 1 gives 22. I need to rewrite this from 3 terms into 4 terms, splitting up 22x into 21x plus 1x. So that gives me 7x squared plus 21x plus 1x plus 3. And I'm ready to do grouping because there are now 4 terms ready to group. So I'm going to group the first two, the next two. GCF of the first two is 7x times x plus 3. GCF of the next one is 1 times x plus 3. I'm going to rewrite it, taking the outside, 7x plus 1, the inside, x plus 3, and that one is done. The next example, a little bit harder because the numbers are higher. So I'm going to give you a new trick. 10x squared minus 43x plus 28. Again, it's a trinomial. I'm looking for, the directions say factor. I'm looking for a GCF. 10, 43, 28. No GCF. So I'm factoring the trinomial in the form of ax squared. Take 10 times 28. My product is 280, and my sum is negative 43. 280 is a big number, and it's going to take me a while to find the two numbers that multiply together. So I've got a trick by doing the prime factorization of 280. This is going to help me to find the two numbers that multiply to 280. So the prime factorization, I'm first going to go 2 times 140. There's one prime factor. 2 times 70. There's another one. 2 times 35. And then 5 times 7. Then I'm going to write those prime factors out. 2, 2, 2, 5, and 7. Now to find the two numbers I need to divide these up into two groups. So it could be 2 times this number. This number is, multiplying them together is 2 times 5, which is 20 times 7 is 140. So 140 times 2, that's not going to give me negative 43. So I'm going to try a different group. I'm going to erase this and try another group. The next group I'm going to try is 4 times 2 times 5 times 7. That's 10 times 7 is 70. 4 times 70, still not going to give me that negative 43. I'm going to try another group. Next group I'm going to try is the first 3 in a group and the other 2 in another group. 8 times 35. Well, 8 plus 35 does equal negative 43. These are the two I need, 8 and 35. And so it's going to have to be a negative 8 plus a negative 35 to give me the negative 43. So these are my two numbers that I'm going to split this into. So that gives me 10x squared minus 8x minus, these are both negative, minus 35x. You're always splitting these into two x terms, negative 8x, negative 35x, plus 28. Now I'm ready for grouping. Grouping the first two, grouping the next two. GCF of the first two is 2x times 5x minus 4. GCF of the second two is going to be negative 7, because there's that negative there. Negative 7 times 5x minus 4. Negative 7 times negative 4 gives me that positive 28. So now I take 2x minus 7 as one of my terms, one of my binomials. The other one is 5x minus 4. And this is my answer. And don't forget that you could always FOIL it to make sure it works. This one does. Okay, my next problem. Again, 3x squared plus 24x plus 45. It says to factor. And it is a trinomial in the form of ax squared. However, finally, we have a GCF. The first type of factoring we will always try is GCF. Take the pledge. Live by the pledge. The first type of factoring we will always try is GCF. From here on out, you will see GCFs. And when we get to the end of this chapter, it's going to happen all the time. So I must factor out the GCF first between 3, 24, and 45, and it is a 3. So it gives me 3 times x squared plus 8x plus 15. However, I'm not done. Now, at this point in the game, you'll factor again. There will sometimes be 2 times that you factor, sometimes 3 times that you will factor in one problem. So you can always look inside the parentheses and see, can I factor this trinomial? And sure enough, I can, because it's the regular kind of product sum, the product being 15, the last one, the sum being the middle one. Product 15, sum is 8, the numbers are 3 times 5. So this type of factoring is just the simple trinomial, goes to x and x. There's no number in front of this x squared term, so it's the first type of trinomial factoring that we did. X and x, the numbers are plus 3 that I get from this, and plus 5. This is now my answer. And do not lose this 3, that is part of your answer. We factored out the 3 first, then we got these. You have to have all of it in your answer. To check this problem, I can FOIL these 2 first, then multiply all of that times 3. Let me do that. So if I FOILed these 2 first, I'd have x squared plus 5x plus 3x plus 15. That gives me x squared plus 8x plus 15. Then I would have to multiply it by that 3 to get the 3x squared plus 24x plus 45, which is what we started with. So all is good. This problem, lost it. Where did it go? Is 2x squared plus 5x minus 2. So I'm looking for a GCF. It says to factor. I'm looking for a GCF. There is none. So I go to factoring the trinomial in the form of ax squared. Because I have a 2 here times this negative 2, my product is negative 4. My sum is 5. Now I got to think of 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 4 and add to be 5. Negative 1 times 4. Well, if I added those, my sum would be 3. No good. 1 times negative 4. My sum would be negative 3. One has to be negative and one has to be positive. So the only other things I could try is negative 2 times positive 2, but that sum would be 0. 2 times negative 2, that sum is 0. I've written down all the products of 4. None of them give me this 5. This is not going to be able to be factored. It is prime. When it doesn't work, some of them will come out to be prime. Not many, but every once in a while you're going to get one that's prime. You try every combination of products to get this number, and none of them give you this sum, then you could put down prime as your answer. That is all for this video.